Birds are chirping in Redmond, and the earth on the surface appears calm. But peel back the layers to an undisclosed location here, and you'll find the flashpoint for a conflict half a world away.
The front line between Ukraine and Russia actually runs through Redmond, Washington.
Microsoft President Brad Smith talking for the first time about the company's role in fending off a Russian invasion, one full of international intrigue and a chain of events dating back several months.
The person who first got me focused on this was Vladimir Zelensky. I was talking with him last September when, of course, he was the president of Ukraine. He just wasn't on everybody's mind the way he is today. And I said, well, what are you really seeing that causes concern? And where he immediately went was to describe how last January of 2021, the Ukrainians saw the Russians experiment with vaccine disinformation in Ukraine. They often use Ukraine as sort of a testing ground. We start by thinking this is about politics. It is, but it's about a whole lot more than politics. And especially when you have technology platforms that can enable a foreign authoritarian government to seek to erode confidence in a democratic society.
Perhaps it was a test run of sorts for the deadly and destructive events of this year, and mobilized Microsoft's Threat Intelligence Center and Digital Security Unit like never before.
And the war in Ukraine is changing the cybersecurity landscape. It is the first war in human history that is being fought in part in cyberspace.
And so there was a connection right before the physical invasion of Ukraine with the attacks, the cyber attacks on Ukraine.
I think one of the interesting things that historians will ultimately ask is, when did this war begin and who saw the first shots that were fired? The conventional wisdom is that Russia invaded Ukraine starting on February 24th. But the truth is, we started to see the cyber attacks unleashed on Ukraine February 23rd, the day before. And I think historians may well conclude that those were the first shots, and they were first seen not in Ukraine itself, but in Redmond.
The way Smith describes it, and Microsoft has now cataloged it, the Russians started attacking Ukraine's critical infrastructure before the invasion, targeting the nation's internet and nuclear capabilities and the electrical supply, attempting to weaken it all, primarily in the territories near the capital city of Kyiv and eastern flank near Kharkiv, with malware, with names like Foxblade or Desert Blade. There were 22 attacks, according to Microsoft, in the first few days alone. On one day in particular, the Russians deployed a malware attack on a major Ukrainian broadcasting company. On the same day, they physically attacked a TV tower. Meanwhile, the Special Forces tech team on the east side raced to write code for Windows devices, a cyber Stinger missile, which Smith says successfully neutralized many of the attacks and kept Ukraine running. The DSU at Microsoft is still volleying off Russian attacks as we speak today. To date, the company says it has seen at least 6 Russian-aligned organizations launch more than 237 cyber attacks against Ukraine that continue to threaten civilian welfare.
We can create software immediately, sometimes just in a few hours, that will protect those computers. What we see is almost potentially an early warning signal. If the Russian military wants to go into a new site, it may try to take the computers down an hour before the troops start getting close or the artillery shells start firing.
When you talk about this, you almost sound like a quasi-government agency that is involved here in protecting a country.
I don't think that any tech company should ever make the mistake of thinking it's like a government. You know, we don't have that elected voice of citizens behind us. We are subject to laws. We don't make laws. It's a responsibility that we take very seriously. And I think with each passing month of the war in Ukraine, we are learning new things, as one always does in a war, about not just the way we can be more effective, but the need for us to be ever more effective.
In a way, it also makes the company a de facto defense contractor, not unlike Boeing in our region in World War II, just in a different space, a cyberspace that has forever changed our lives and now the rules of engagement. In Redmond, Chris Daniels, King 5 News.